good night at the end of that. What are you doing?
Sat right on the orbit between my arse.
That's the intro.
You really got it? Yes, everybody, welcome back. It's episode 50 of the Sherlocks podcast. You're joined by Trent, Brandon, Alex, and myself, and we're talking absolute nonsense for not too long this episode, as we've got a special guest, which you'll find out about later. What have you been up to, Alex?
We're in Manchester doing bits.
Yes.
Bits.
Yeah, business.
We're playing Manchester Friday night. Big Albert Hall gig.
Massive. It's going to be unreal. Getting prepped for that. We've got Arcala and Alex Spencer
Yeah, it's going to be good.
on support.
Yeah, I heard Alex Spencer does backflips on stage, so I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Really?
Yeah,
Nice.
I hope he does now.
Obviously, it's Wednesday, so there's still time to grab a ticket. Pretty
Yeah.
much.
It's going off. So get a ticket, come and see us boys. Yeah.
Yeah, have yourself a good night.
Yeah.
What else have we been up to?
Well, we had a weigh-in.
Oh yeah.
Spontaneous weigh-in, I don't know how.
Yeah.
Basically where we're staying is in like a flat and we found some scales, so then we thought,
Obviously.
obviously the next thing we're going to do is all just jump on scales.
Yeah.
So
So yeah, pre-gig weigh-in.
yeah, I think a few egos were hurt.
No, not bothered. Massive.
No, good fun. That was a good laugh, weren't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, insert clip.
No, you're not videoing. That's fat shaming.
It's not.
It's fat shaming. That's cool. Right, I've had enough.
What are you?
Enough.
You're tall. That's why.
I'm tall, but I'm also fucking wide at the moment. Broken.
Yeah. Right, with shoes on that, 12-2.
I've not been on that.
That's been ages. Bearing in mind at Rockfield, they were about 9 stone 3.
Yeah.
How'd you kick it off?
It's broken.
The end of that.
No, battery's hell back. Ready? Yeah. Coming in at 10:13.
Feel like.
Oh, the batteries have come out.
Oh my god, they are absolutely knackered, them.
Lick them.
Licky, licky.
Licky, licky. Come on, let's have a look. What are you saying? 15. 15.
Who's a big boy? I'm another half of you.
Are you sure?
Big one up front.
Stick him up top.
Oh, go on then.
Oh dear.
11-4. What's it? Oops.
I'm going like that on back.
Oh god.
He's going to be buzzing now.
I know, you're going to feel like.
Getting on slow. Well, he's dropped a stone.
I've dropped a bit.
What did we do last night?
We always do. Like for drinks.
Yeah, you had a couple of Paul lagers, didn't you?
Oh, lagers, yeah.
Expensive Paul, I don't know. $6.85.
Knock off.
Knock up Paul Arne. Luckily I went for the mango IPA, got away with it. But yeah.
Not a bit of an early night, didn't we?
Yeah.
You hit a good gut tonight.
You went for a Five Guys, didn't you?
Yeah.
Good.
And you say
The right option.
putting all extras on, weren't you?
Well, it weren't too many, it was pretty. I found the receipt for it was pretty. Went over the top. It were good. And you got, what did you get? Popeyes.
Yeah.
The wrong option.
Oh, nothing. I'm not sure if I've ever had it before until yesterday.
No, you have.
Have I?
I think you had it last time.
What is it? I think I had.
There's two. There's one in the Arndale and there's one in.
Oh, I've done. Yeah. That was decent though.
That's what we've been up to. Popeyes, Five Guys. That one I meant to rhyme. Beers
And weigh-ins.
and weigh-ins. We're going to do it all again. Probably that. That's a gear grinder. Getting served the wrong drink. But then again, you can't really blame him either. If you asked for a Paul Arner, he did pour it on the Paul Arner tap. I think what's happened there is they've mixed the barrel downstairs. So we ended up with Paul Lager.
It's a bit of a gear grinder getting to this room from the entrance. A lot of steps.
It's a gear grinder having a kebab shop next door.
Absolute filth.
So good. There's gold. Terry's in front. You just put your nostrils in shot.
I went to get some new jeans from Levi's.
Not being able to fit.
Yeah.
Not really, that would grind my gears, yeah. Not being able to fit in them. There've been about 68 different 511s, 510s, 501s, 502s, 519s, all that hard work.
Yeah.
Too much to go through, getting it forced down your neck. What are you after? I'm after a pair that fits.
Have you got any then?
You got me then?
What kind of fit you after?
Yeah, non-muffin top.
Spray on.
Nah, it's gone that. As soon as you hit your 30s, they're out the window. Sometimes you go into your wardrobe and you think, oh, that's a lovely pair of old Levi's I had.
28 words.
Yeah, how did I get into them?
Shorts.
Yeah. How old was I when I was in these?
You know, we pick up who's from these.
Yeah.
Right, this is the new music section where we all give you a tune from the past or the present. Who's going to kick it off today? Trent?
I'll kick it off, yeah. My tune's by Tom Smith. He's got a new tune called What. It's just come out recently. It's a very good tune. He's also supporting us in Sheffield at Steelyard next year, so that'll be good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I'm going to go with an Ian Brown tune. I don't know if it's his debut album. Alex will probably know this. The Greatest. Either way, 2005. There's a tune on that, Love Like a Fountain. Great tune. Listening to that, coming home from my holidays on plane.
Nice. Mine this week is by Balu Brigada. Balu Brigada. It's called So Cold.
I think I can say on the other it's Katy Perry.
Oh yeah. I'll tell you a story about that. So there's a funny time. I think I beeped at someone whilst I beeped down the motorway, and I discovered that my car horn.
You weren't beeping at anyone. You just started randomly beeping to the
Yeah,
song.
the motorway was completely clear, and Katy Perry came on, and I was trying to keep myself awake.
Came on by itself.
We were driving back straight from Glasgow, very tired. And Katy Perry, Hot and Cold, came on the radio, and I just picked my horn and I found out it's actually in the same key as my horn. Fun fact.
Where were you beeping? Because you have
Yeah.
I'm sure you got a video.
I did get a video of
It's right, like, and it's like somewhere there. No. Do you really want to stay? No. Honk. Yeah. Things you do to keep yourself awake. Anyway. Yeah, so Cold by Balu Brigade.
I'll go for an old tune now. DMA's, I think his second album. Is it For Now it's called?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Not really.
There's a tune on that called Emily Whyte, which I'm not sure if it's last tune. It's one of the last tunes on the album. Mint tune, check that one out.
Right everybody, seeing as this is episode 50, we thought we'd bring you a special guest, and it's also why we wanted to keep our bit a little bit shorter, because we had a very good chat. He used to sing in a band called the Inspiral Carpets in the most prolific time when all the big hits were coming out. He is the voice, he's sung on them all. So yeah, he used to be in the Inspiral Carpets. He's currently touring anyway, like constantly playing gigs. We met him the other week.
Top man.
We've known him some years. Back in day, me and Brandon supported him in Sheffield at a place called Viper Rooms ages ago. But yeah, we talked about everything. We talked about AI, being independent,
His career from
growing up, everything is
from the start.
very interesting podcast. So
interesting
get your
podcast.
eyes around this.
You'll enjoy it.
Just said it was.
Just keep that.
Have you guessed who it is, yeah?
Tom Hingley. Hiya Tom, how we doing?
It's a bit dry. I'm not used to seeing in such dry circumstances. It's usually like sticking your head in a big bucket with piranha fish swimming around.
How are we doing? We all good?
I'm all right. You're just about to see Kelly walk down because she works from home. She works for the Musicians Union. She's just going to come down for a walk. So when she walks in, she'll see that she's talking to the Sherlocks. I'm not quite sure how she's going to respond to it. I think there may be it'd be like the sheer stadium. They'll be screaming like that. Do you know what I mean? I'm sure that'll ensue. Well, I wouldn't blame them. I wouldn't blame them if it did. Actually, yeah. I'm good. I'm fine.
Nice, bro. It's good to have you on. Thanks for taking the time.
It's okay. It's my pleasure. It's nice to catch up with you. It was good to see you the other day. I've not seen you for years and years, and I know you've been doing really well.
As you know, it's all very thrown together, so apologies in advance. This is it's probably not going to be the best interview you've ever done. Well, podcast.
Well, that's probably likely to be with the Metropolitan Police, so I'm not going to worry too much about that.
Well, I think we want to kick things off, Tom. Not to sound too deep, but where were you born? How were your upbringing? And very generic questioning, but how did you get into music?
Okay, well, I was born in the Warren Hospital in Abingdon in Oxfordshire, which in the words of Spinal Tap, don't go looking for it because it's not there anymore. Grew up in sort of rural South Oxfordshire. My dad was an academic at Oxford University. We lived in a great big house. It was in the middle of nowhere. Used to watch Tony Wilson on his punk programme that was on in the 70s. We kind of got into new wave and punk bands. I was in rubbish punk bands with my elder brothers because I'm the youngest of 7. We used to record really stupid albums on cassette at home using like a reel-to-reel and a cassette machine to do sort of very basic overdubbing, but it wasn't that different from obviously they were geniuses and we were just idiots, but it's not that different from how Sgt. Pepper was recorded really. And then my brothers were in bands, so I started being in bands really quite early, about 10 or 11. I started playing guitar when I was probably 11. We used to put on a little festival in South Oxfordshire, and then we were then in bands through my teens. I moved to London, worked for British Rail for a bit, and was in a band. I think we did a gig in the Rock Garden in Camden. I've got a feeling that Damon Albarn might have been one of the other bands. We only would have been about 15 or 16. Then I moved up to Manchester, the Poly, studied there. The band I'd been with moved up there, and we formed a band up there. The band changed its name to Too Much Texas. We worked at the Hacienda. We did a Peel session. We supported New Order. We supported the How to Love. We supported The Beloved. So we can't have been crap, really. And that's how I used to sing in church. So that's probably where it came from. I'm not religious now, but that's probably where it came from, I think.
7 brothers in total, did you say?
Not 7 brothers, no. I had 4 brothers and 2 sisters, but sadly 2 of my brothers passed away in 2023. So there's just 2 sisters and 2 brothers now.
I want to ask about the Carpets. Straight into it, to be fair. I think, how did the Carpets, how did it even come together?
Right, when you're saying the Carpets, do you mean my tribute band or do you mean Inspiral Carpets? Sorry,
the Inspiral Carpets, in the early days.
Well, it was Graham and Stephen's band. Stephen Holt and Graham formed the band. It was a bedroom band, and this is sort of 1982. It was long before I was involved in it. And what Graham says is that they started off by learning to play psychedelics Furs songs, and they were called the Furs originally, and then they started keying into this kind of 60s psychedelia stuff like the Seeds and Moving Sidewalks and Virgin Prunes, and they started rehearsing, doing little gigs, and they started rehearsing in the sort of rehearsing room in Guide Bridge, which is near Ashton, which Clint used to run because he ran a furniture making company that made office furniture and beds and stuff, and so he had this lock-up, this recording studio and this spraying studio, so there was always loads of black dust from spraying bits of fabricated metal in there, and Clinton had this habit. He recorded a lot of bands there. He was in a band called T'Challa Grid, and he was in a band with Manny and Ian Brown for about 2 weeks, which they called the Mill, or Mill. And so anyways, what Clint did one day was in about 1986, he just moved his Far Freezer compact GOA keyboard into their rehearsal room, and then he started playing with them, and they never looked back. And actually, we did an interview about 25 years ago, and he said, "Do you want to ask me if I want to join the band?" Because he never actually officially joined the band. He just moved his keyboard into the rehearsal room. So Stephen left in 1988 because he just wanted to do other stuff, I think. And obviously he's back in the band now. He has been back in the band since 2011 singing. But then they were auditioning for a singer. Yeah, I hope I'm answering your question. The audition for a singer, so they auditioned Noel Gallagher on the night of the Lockerbie bombing, but he didn't really like some of the lyrics. I think they had a song called Whiskey, and I don't think he liked the lyrics to it. But really, probably very lucky for him that he didn't get into the band, really, if you think about it. It played out, and now he's a million times more successful than Inspirals were. So he auditioned, I think he's called John Matthews, who ended up in the High, but he didn't get in. And they auditioned some other guy who was a mate of Martin's. Tim Burgess said he auditioned for the band. I mean, I don't know whether whether he did really. He was in a band called the Electric Crayons. I mean, I didn't know them very well at that time, but I don't think he did. Well, actually, all of the band, apart from Martin, were at a very important gig in 1987 where the Stone Roses supported James. It might have been 1987, I think it was 1988 maybe, at the International 2. And my wife's just about to walk in and ask me a question about shopping. So you might try and do some kind of kung fu gestures to it, saying I'm doing an interview. So I do that. It's not some kind of mating call. I only do that on Thursdays. So what happened was all of Inspirals, apart from Martin, were actually at this gig at the International 2 where the Stone Roses supported James at this Anti-Clause 28 gig. And it's actually where Graham and Craig met Noel. So I'm going backwards and forwards. Anyway, so I auditioned in the band in, I'd say, March 89 they got in, and I was in the band from March 1989 until February 2011 when we kind of sadly fell out. But it was a hell of a ride, it was great.
And one thing that we've noticed it, and we've been in a band for like 10 years now, but how do you feel like the music industry's, not 15 years in fact, how do you think the music industry's changed in terms of touring, back from when you were doing it then to like obviously still touring now?
People are a bit spoilt, I think kind of you got social media and virtual worlds and gaming, and there was a big relaxation of the drinking laws as well. And so I think it's much harder to be in a band now because there's so many different demands on people's money and time than there was. And also I think the growth of social media means that everyone kind of feels like, Andy Warhol said everyone will be famous for 15 minutes, and I think everyone now feels like they're the custodian of their own kind of. People all feel like they're pop stars themselves. I'll give an example of that, and this all makes it a bit harder to be a band. We did a gig supporting Happy Mondays with my tribute band, and some people contacted me on Facebook. They said, "What time are you on?" I said, "Well, we're supposed to be on at 8 o'clock." And when we got to this gig in Chesterfield, unfortunately, Sean and Paul's late now. He's passed away the other year, but Paul and Sean were burying their dad on the Sunday. So when they turned up, they said, "Well, we want to go on an hour and a half earlier." So we ended up going on at 7, and afterwards I got all this stuff off people on Facebook saying, "Why did you say you're on at 8 if you're on at 7? And that's the thing, is that people feel like they're a custodian of their own time. And so I don't think that happened 15 years ago. I think, you get this thing as well, which I don't know whether you got it. I don't want to start sounding like Mariah Carey or something, but I do little acoustic gigs. So I play for an hour or whatever, and I come off, and then people come on and say, "Can we have a selfie?" And you're saying, "I've just been playing for like 90 minutes. No, I want a selfie now." It's like, why? Because you want to go? Yeah, I want to go. It's like, yeah, well, unfortunately, that's because you're the custodian of your time rather than realising it. Just, you get what I'm saying? So it's made people much more precious about time as a resource, almost to the point of maybe being a little bit selfish, I think.
Yeah, it's a good point. I think you've hit the nail on the head, really. People's always had their own opinions, but now they've got a platform to voice it and give people stick, which is unnecessary sometimes.
I come across being very arsey in that consequence. It's just that I think that people, I had a thing once where I got into terrible row with someone in a pub in Barrow Furnace, and this young person turned up. I'm just going to tell Kelly I'm doing an interview because she will walk in and she won't like it. She's doing an interview with someone else out there. It's like United Nations in here. So, so I did this gig in Barrow Furnace, and this young lady came in and said, "Can I have a selfie with you?" And I'm making my gig sound really small and disastrous, but it was only 20 minutes until I was playing in this pub in Barrow Furnace, and I'm not saying it was a rough pub, but someone came in and dropped a load of bottles of Heineken on the floor. They didn't sell Heineken in the pub. That's how rough the pub was. And so I had roughly about 10 minutes to go out and get something to eat and then come back in. And she said, "I want to do these photos." And I said, "Are you coming to the gig?" She said, "No." I said, "Well, I don't mean to be rude, but no, I'm not. I've got 15 minutes to go and get something to eat and then come back. If you're not attending the gig, I don't mean to be rude, but I don't really care." And I think that's the problem with social media and mobile phones, is that people all feel entitled that they have a piece of you. And I don't mind doing selfies. I did a gig. I mean, I'm now kind of boasting. I did a gig in Hong Kong the other night, and maybe 100 people turned up and wanted selfies. I don't mind that, but if I've only got 5 minutes or 10 minutes to do something, I don't really want to be doing a selfie. There isn't a human right to have a selfie, and I think it's just made people very entitled, I think, in a way that they weren't before.
You were telling me about that gig in Hong Kong, were it?
Yeah.
How were it? How do you find it out there?
It was amazing. I mean, Hong Kong is obviously, it's now, I mean, it was like an independent territory for 99 years because it was like part of the British Empire. And when they kind of stuff happened 100 years ago, they signed a 99-year lease in 1905. So they had to hand it back as part of China in 1995. But it's got quite a vibrant, great architecture, great culture. great food. They all laughed at my jokes. And so, I mean, that's all pretty good, isn't it? But the gig was just it was a gig in a little bar called the Wanch Club, and the people who organise a festival which has got a slightly humorous name. It's called the Clock and Flap Festival. But they've got Beth Orton's playing it, Franz Ferdinand's playing it, and Sparks are playing it. They do it every December, so I mean, it's quite a big festival. It's 50,000 people, so it's a really vibrant, it's a really sort of vibrant place. And I don't want to get on a big negative tip, but I don't think Britain or Europe is going through a very good time at the moment, really. So it was nice to be somewhere else where it was a little bit of a break from what's going on here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, 100%. What I know, speaking for me and Kieran, like our favourite place we've ever toured is Japan. But have you got a favourite country to tour of memories from anywhere
Japan
you've really
was a bit
enjoyed?
weird. Japan was a good point. Japan was a bit weird. I don't know if you know that film Lost in Translation, but it was a bit like Lost in Translation. But the only thing about Lost in Translation is it's possibly a little bit racist in places. I love Bill Murray. If you haven't seen that film, watch it, because it's very like touring in Japan. But I do love touring in Japan. But my oldest brother, who's deceased now, he was married to a Japanese woman, so we do have some family over in Japan. But I think Japan is probably a good one, because when we were over there, we were just so famous at that time. The second time we went, they weren't quite so famous, and it was weird actually, because there's this band called Ensign and Neubauten, which is collapsing new buildings, who were supposed to be playing the night after us in the club the second time we went there, and somehow there was a bit of a stage invasion and the stage collapsed. Now, the thing about this Ensign and Neubauten is that they had a reputation for chopping things up with oxyacetylene torches. They used to sort of destroy stuff on stage, but they actually couldn't do their gig because unfortunately there was a stage invasion which actually destroyed the stage when we were playing there. So
Wow.
So Japan is I understand what you're saying. I liked America as well, but I think America may be gone a bit nuts at the moment. I don't mean the people, I mean the kind of government, you know. So I think America is a great place to tour, because you could the thing about, if you see a lot of American bands, and I'm not talking about the Sherlocks because you lot are great, because it's such a big place, there's two things. Bands can play a lot more live because there's just so much more land space to play, and also there's a different cultural recording in America. If you look at the recording DNA in Britain, it comes from George Martin and the Beatles, where people do multi-track recording, whereas if you look at the recording tradition in America, it's much more capturing stuff live. I mean, when we were in America, we saw George Dacousius producing this session with the band called the Gin Blossoms, and it was in the studio in LA, where I think Led Zeppelin 2 was recorded, and I think Fleetwood Mac Rumours was recorded there, and they just record everything live. So there's a much more live culture, playing live and recording in America. And I'm not talking about you guys, but I think basically bands are much better. I think in America, generally the standard of playing, because it just can do so much more playing domestically.
I know we always found it, I mean, we've only been a couple of times, but we found it hard work touring, in terms, it just felt so, well, it's just so big. We found it hard to like get any kind of momentum going. You'd just be playing in a small club and then driving 8 hours, 9 hours to the next place. Yeah, I don't know where we sit with America. I think we enjoyed it, but it just seems overwhelming.
Yeah.
Do you find yourself having to go over more, obviously because it's so big, just to build your reputation over there?
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing about America is it's probably only worth really concentrating on a really small pocket of West Coast and East Coast places. And when I say America, I mean North America more broadly, and it's definitely worth playing in Toronto. It was when we were there. Probably worth playing in Montreal. Then you got places which are quite near Canada, you know, like God, now I can't remember, wherever, Nirvana, Seattle, San Francisco, New York, probably some other places, Boston, you know. So I think you need to make, I mean, I'm not talking about the Sherlocks, I'm saying generally you need to make buddies over there. You need to find some bands to tour with, I think. And I think also the big thing about America is, I'm talking about, there's been very few bands over the last 40 or 50 years who've had radio hits. And I don't know, I mean, I think Coldplay had radio hits, and the band before that were Oasis, because they had a radio hit with Wonderwall. Now, because of the internal dynamics of Oasis at that time, they didn't actually tour around America when they had Wonderwall as a hit, which they should have done, because it's very rare to have a hit at radio as a British band. And I'm not criticising them, I'm just saying, if there's one thing they got, it was inescapable because of what they'd already been through up to that point, but there's one point of their career that was probably really quite a big mistake. It was not capitalising on Wonderwall as a radio hit, because radio at that time, maybe before things became more internet based, really dominated it really, really dominated the whole of your success or failure as a British act in America, or a domestic act in America, really, to be honest.
When we went to America, we did 5 weeks, and it was like we did just like a massive U shape. We never did any of the middle. We just went down one coast across, then up the other coast, and then finished in thing. But I thought the same. Like once you've done it, you kind of think this is going to take some cracking, you know what I mean? And then you think, let's just concentrate on East Coast or whatever, like you said, New York, Boston, and then maybe go up into Canada and just concentrate on, treat that like its own little country. But every time we've looked at going back now, it's like 15 to 20 grand just for visas. Yeah. So it's like, it's impossible.
Crazy. Yeah, there's been some slight noises about some bands going over and doing some some tours with 2 or 3 bands touring together over in America, and I think that might be happening. So the thing is, it's such a weird. There's a funny story. I feel like I'm going on too much, but like Depeche Mode, they broke America because they were very much seen as being an electro band, and at that time in America, we have EDM dance music in America, which has been popular probably for the last 15 years, but before that point, they were the mainstream or even the more underground stuff was completely unaware of electronic music. They completely missed out on Depeche Mode and Gary Newman and all and Yazoo and all that early Indian and all that stuff, Fad Gadget. And it's only really in the last 15 years that EDM, which they repackaged out, has become a big thing. But even Depeche Mode, there was some little radio station there that was a rock and roll station, so they recorded an electro version of Route 66, and that was how they started as a band in America. They had to do something that was completely not true to everything they'd done as a band, and this record station started playing their version of Route 66, which is obviously a sort of a famous, is it a Chuck Berry song? But anyway, so they broke it on one station in America by completely changing what they were doing to fit in with the format of the program in the channel in an ironic way. So it's one of those things, never say never, because you might be absolutely massive in America. It's perfectly possible. You've got all the ingredients that will make it so, I think.
How many times have you been to America touring? Just a few times, or have you been regular?
I think we did two tours like the one you did, and then me and Clint went over and then just did an acoustic tour. But I've been over there on holiday a little bit, and I've probably spent 6 to 8 weeks in America overall. Yeah. And I think some bands get a little bit caught up in it. I'm trying to think what the band was. There was a band who went over there and spent about a year touring. It was because they liked America. If you like America, just go on holiday there. Don't tour, because actually it's because you don't want to be at home or because you like the culture. Just go there on holiday or something, But I did like touring in America, but it's going through a hard time, America, at the moment. There's a lot of soul searching going on, and it's a shame. It's a great country,
Yeah.
What do you think of touring in Germany? That's our second home. We love it going to Germany and other places in Europe.
I think Germany is a fantastic country. We were quite popular in Germany, and I'd like to get back over there. And I think I had this funny thing in Germany. There's this idea that people don't think they've got a sense of humour, but they definitely have got a sense of humour. And there's this thing I occasionally do. In this segment, life gives you lemonade, gives you lemons, make lemonade. I've got this thing where, a couple of times in my life, and this happened in Germany, I've seen a group of people dressed up as clowns who aren't clowns. I think they have this thing where in Dusseldorf, where they have this week where they're wacky for charity between 9 and 5, a bit like Red Nose Day. So all the office people dress up in cosplay between 9 and 5. But if you do it before 9 o'clock, you'd probably be scowled on. You do it after 5 o'clock, you'd get sent to Coventry. So we're driving along this road, and there's this group of workers who looked a bit dejected. Maybe it was raining. They probably worked in the local, they either worked for the local council, or maybe they worked at the Clap Clinic or something, but they're walking along and they're all dressed up as clowns. And I was with a guy called Dirk, and I tapped him on the shoulder, and I pointed over, I said, look at that set of clowns. So there has been a couple of occasions where I've been able to point at people and say, look at that set of clowns, when it's not an ironic comment. But the thing that's a bit bizarre about it is because it isn't an ironic comment, it does actually render it ironic. It also happened outside Wembley Arena, because I used to have a beer called Tom Hingley's Bitter, which was a bit of an in-joke between me and Stephen Holt. But anyway, and there was a bunch of people dressed up as clowns promoting beer there, so I had to knock this strange woman on the shoulder and say, look at that set of clowns. So I'm always looking for that. I'm always looking for that situation to arise. That's shut you up, hasn't it?
How did you find the gig in Shrewsbury?
Oh yeah.
The gig in Shrewsbury was we played at the Heel Festival and we were on before you, and it's always a pleasure playing before you because I never feel like, because you're a great band, but I never feel like when we're on stage, we're only on stage when it's our stage. And I've seen some bands go on before bands that are playing after them. I saw Primal Scream and they were being Bobby Gillespie was being rude about Basement Jacks, and it's like, I'm not being funny. Primal Scream are a great band, and I quite like Basement Jacks, but what I'm saying is I don't really care what Bobby Gillespie thinks about Basement Jacks. I wouldn't go on stage and slag off another band because it's not my audience. I wouldn't do that anyway. But it's only your stage when you're on it. So it was very, it was very wet. While we played, there were a lot more people watching while you were playing, but there weren't that many people. So I just got off stage and I just sang to him off the front of the stage because, you sometimes got to do that. And also I wanted to check how many people in the audience I owe money to. So it's always good to do that as well, obviously. And, So I think it was. I've had a few problems because I came back from Hong Kong, and I've got. This is not going to make me one of the most attractive, eligible men in Britain at the moment. As I'm happily married, it probably doesn't matter. But I've got some quite bad skin problems going on. It's something I had before Hong Kong, so I've got to go to the doctors in a bit and get it sorted out. I've got really bad eczema, so I've got to go to the doctors. So I kind of was having to. So of course, the worst thing that can happen is you get your feet wet. So I kind of took my shoes off when I got back, and I looked like a cross between the Incredible Hulk and something that they might make on MasterChef if it involved lots of flaky skin. So it looked like my feet were made out of porky scratchings or something like that. I can send you pictures, but unfortunately it doesn't have any of my more interesting bits on them. Got to tell you, I can do that.
Insert photo.
Yeah. It was a wet one the other day.
It was.
Oh God, yeah.
Seriously.
I drove back.
Interface as well. Interface rain.
I drove back and I came back along a load of A roads, and I have this thing where if it's dangerous, I'm quite a defensive driver. I'm not like Nigel Mansell or something. If there's someone behind me and the road isn't good, I pull over and let them go. Not because I'm a nice person, just because there's going to be a tree in the road or some problem, they're going to get to it first. So I always pull over and let people go in front of us, So there was a tree crossing the road that'd fallen over the road at one point, and but it was all right because I was still really quite jet lagged, so I felt like I was in Tron or something, So it was all a bit unreal, but I enjoyed it, and I really enjoyed it, and it was really nice to catch up with you guys because I haven't seen you for a long time, and it was great. I always love playing. It's such a instrumental thing for me to do, and I've got a great band. The drummer's called Elliot. He plays in a band called Sea Fever, who are made up out of half of New Order and half of Johnny Marr's band. And he's a great drummer. We've got a lad called Andy Stewartson who plays keyboards. He used to be the bass player in the Mock Turtles, and he's just ace bloke. Then we had Phil McIntyre playing guitar. He's been playing with us for about 12 years now. He's just really good. And we had our regular player, bass player Dave couldn't play it, so we had this guy called Frank. Now Frank is about 22 and he looks like a taller, much more handsome version of what I looked like when I was 22. So I don't know whether to disown him or pretend to people that he's my son, but I don't actually do either. He had a bowl head the first time we did the gig. I looked at myself and thought, God, I'm looking at myself from 1989. But he's a great bass player. So it was great. The gig was great. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, he sounded great.
Thank you.
You did, yeah. For anyone who don't know, then, so your current band is the Carpets.
Yeah, we do a tribute to Inspiral Carpets, but we never, I don't know what they think about it. We never say we're Inspiral Carpets. We can't be them, and with deference to them, Clint is a big star. He was always a star of that band, and I always, different bands have different dynamics, but we could never be Inspiral Carpets because they haven't got Graham or Clint in it, and Clint is a big star, and that's always been quite aware in my firmament, if you want to put it that way. So yeah, we do this tribute, and we've done a few gigs around the place. We did a gig in Paris where my mate Kevin, who I used to go to college with, got me very drunk. But it's interesting because within about 30 minutes in Paris, one band member had their wallet taken, and as the night went on, I think another member of the band had their cash card taken. So I don't know how that happened. I think I'll leave that to your imagination why that might have happened. So it was good fun, but it was a bit. You know, when you do a gig, I don't know when you're a lot younger than me, but there used to be a lot of kids TV on. There used to be a lot of kids TV, and when you do a really mental gig and it just goes completely nuts, you feel like you're appearing on kids TV, and I felt a little bit like that gig in Paris. So we've done gigs all over the show really, and been doing it since 2015, I think. We've had a few different players in the band, a few people have come and gone, but it's been I mean, also sadly Craig, the drummer from Inspiral Carpets, passed away in 2015, so they didn't play from 2015 until 2022, maybe 23. So we just did a load of gigging when they weren't operational, but we don't have a freehold over that work. You know, it's their work really, isn't it?
I'm right thinking you've done Top of the Pops before. I'm just going off what you were saying with kids' TV show. How did you find Top of the Pops?
We did Top of the Pops 7 times. I think Clint's done it 8. Clint's done it 8 times because he did it with Shed 7 when he did Is It Lovely Till Thursday, or whatever that single was. I think he played on that. But we did it twice with the Satfields. We did it twice with She Comes in the Fall. We did it with a track called Biggest Mountain. Then we did it Caravan. We did it. Then we did Drag Me Down and I Want You. I think so. I mean, when I was a little nipper, my mate Will used to have a tennis racket, and he used to stand in his attic in his house pretending I was Mark Bolan. This is before T-Rex. This is when the band was called Tyrannosaurus Rex. So when probably in about 1972, I used to pretend I was on Top of the Pops. So I always felt like I'd probably get onto Top of the Pops because I'm quite a dedicated person, and also because you had to have the talent, but you also had to have the ability to stay out of any kind of career that required one to stick with it. You know, like the police or being a teacher or being a bricklayer. You have to stick with it, don't you? Whereas if you're going to be a musician in a band, you have to be prepared to just fly by the seat of your pants all the time. So I think I always knew I was going to be on Top of the Pops. I used to watch all these singers in the 1970s because I'm 60 now, and I used to watch Tom Jones on the telly, or David Bowie or Mark Bolan. I used to see him holding these microphones and miming and thinking, yeah, I could get paid for pretending that I'm doing something that I'm not doing. And I just had a feeling that I could do that. I know it sounds mad. I suppose sports people call it visualization, don't they? When you want to get a goal or you want to, yeah. So I always thought that it was something I could do, and I had really quite a privileged upbringing. My dad, you know, we weren't massively rich, but we were rich in terms of being encouraged to do things. Quite an eccentric, idiosyncratic family. So I don't think it would have been difficult for me if I wanted to go off and become an actor. I could have done that probably, just because my parents were so fucking weird, you know. So I think it would have been possible to have gone and done. I could have become a politician, for example, but I mean, I can't become a politician now because I've got too many embarrassing stories in my future. So I can't become a politician now. But I think like yourselves, you've all been encouraged in your own to develop your own light and your own individuality and to express yourself. That takes a particular kind of upbringing and a particular kind of parent that pushes you out and gives you the courage and the confidence to be able to go and express yourself. Because let's face it, there's always someone telling you that you're shit, isn't there? So like, you've got to have this inner light that can deal with that. And there's a funny thing, I'll say this because I'm going on a bit, there's a funny thing when bands start being successful. It's a bit like when the rocket takes off to take man to the moon. There's a bit where the rocket blasts off, and what happens is, unfortunately, some people around you start slagging you off because they're jealous of the fact that you're doing better than they are. And bizarrely enough, that just makes you bigger as a band. It's like the propellant that's driving that rocket up into the sky. So sometimes sort of people's bitterness and people's anger drives you forwards and it drives you on. I don't know whether I've answered your question, but it sounded convincing while I was saying it.
Yeah.
You know?
No. So, when you were on it, did you have to mime all the performances? Because we spoke to Rick Witter before, and he said he did a Top of the Pop, but it were abroad somewhere, and he said he was the only one who was singing live vocals, and the rest of the band were getting stuck into bar.
The thing about it is, well, that might have been true at any point, them doing anything, right? You know, that might have been them at the Brit Awards, mate. But no, Rick's lovely, isn't he? But we went for a meal with him, and we were for a meal with him once, and he bought loads of yellow sticker stuff from like Tesco's. So me and my wife were calling him Yellow Sticker Rick Witter, or he was saying. And he had to be there. It wasn't actually better being there, but he's a lovely bloke and a great singer, great frontman. Yeah. I think Top of the Pops, we mimed the first couple of ones, but what happened was that BBC at that time, it's been a bit mythologised and made into something better than it was in a way, because it was civil service broadcasting. So if you came in and you were rude to the commissioner on the door, you weren't coming into the programme. If you were rude to the guy on the door, the person who subbed in on the door. So when you got in there, they hated indie bands, really. They liked pop bands, or they liked VT stuff that they could just run. They didn't like the indie bands, so they made the indie bands sing, because they weren't going to make Take That sing, were they? I mean, maybe I'm being unfair. I mean, Take That were obviously a great band, but a lot of those pop bands didn't even sing on their own records. They just had a load of an ensemble of male and female singers who just sang on all the records, or did all the backing vocals on the records, which is why they all sounded identical. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm not kind of... So they used to make the indie bands sing, really, because they didn't really want them on there, I think, to be honest. And I mean, but Top of the Pops, I mean, it was great, because he went on there, he did This Is Out Fields, and then the next week I went out to go and watch it, went out for a night in Chester with my first wife, and just got mobbed everywhere. So it's a bit like, it was such a big programme, you'll never have anything like that again, because the media world is so fragmented that it's quite hard for businesses or bands to know how to get through to the audience. It's got very fragmented, whereas Top of the Pops was just this enormous flagship thing where most people watched it. I mean, a lot of people watched it and hated, as well, spent the whole time slagging everyone else off on it, so, but it was a bit weird, because you'd turn up and, as I said, it was civil service broadcasting, so the people who'd be filming it would probably be rather doing Antiques Roadshow or something like that. So you'd be in the studio miming or singing live, and then the cameraman would be going, look at his haircut, look at his trainers, God, terrible. They'd be saying that while you're being filmed, and then they'd run some poor girl's leg over with a dolly, and there'd be like young girls screaming in the background. So there was a slightly absurdist side to it while you were doing it. It didn't look like it did on telly, yeah. But it was, I'm glad I did it. And obviously, if you put together the 10 or 15 most iconic bits of Top of the Pops, I think us appearing with Marky Smith will definitely be in there. And that was, still occasionally it comes up on my feed, and I've got to be honest, I kind of start laughing myself stupid.
Marky Smith.
Yeah, it was a bit. The record company said to us, they said, when we did the last album that I did with Inspirals, it's called Devil Hopping, and we didn't want to do any of these sort of cheesy remixes. We said, we'll get a couple of different singers in, we'll get them to sing different versions of the songs. So we got Basil Clark from a called Yargo, which was really good. Great. He sang on a couple of songs. Then we got Mark in, and we booked him into the studio, and we had this guy called Pascal Gabriel, who he was a producer. He used to be in S Express, and he produced the MF, and he also wrote half of No Angel for Dido, so he must be quite rich, I would have thought, these days. But he worked with us, and he worked on Dragging Me Down and Saturn 5. He's like a brilliant producer. But anyway, he didn't think we really ought to work with Mark, and he was Belgian, and forgive my rubbish impersonation of a Belgian accent, but we said we're going to get Mark to re-sing Saturn 5. So why do you want to do that for? He's ruined his career. So anyway, on the Friday, Pascal went off down south, and we had this engineer called Cliff Norrell. Now, Cliff Norrell's a famous American producer. He produced Paul's Boutique for the Beastie Boys. He's done a lot of stuff with John Hyatt, and he did the two biggest albums with REM. So when you hear Everybody Hurts and hear that little cowbell, I know it sounds really esoteric, but you can tell that Cliff Norrell mic'd that up because of the way that he used to mic stuff up. Because he used to mic stuff up from different distances in the studio, and you can tell from the guitar sounds on it. You'll know what I mean when you've worked with producers. You'll know what I mean. But it might not mean a lot to people listening to the podcast. But anyway, but Pascal had this 1960s or 1950s ribbon microphone. It might even have been from the bloody Hitler period, And I said to Cliff, you have to plug it in for 3 days, before you can even. So I said it was worth about $4,000. I said, I think you better move that, Cliff. So he did. He took it out. So on the Friday, I hadn't turned up, and it got to about 8 o'clock, and there was a Canadian guy in the studio. It was Parr Street in Liverpool, and the phone went in the control room. It said, "There's a Mr. Smith in reception waiting for you." And he came in. He got a cab from Manchester. So we needed that paying for it. It was about 85 quid. And he sat there with a little dictaphone, listening to the mixes, screwing his eyes up, and it was all coming out of this dictaphone. You couldn't really hear anything. And he'd say, "The hi-hat's too loud on that one," which God knows how he knew that. Really. So anyway, so we didn't record that day. So the next day he turned up, and me and Clint were there while he was singing. So he broke the Neumann mic within about 3 minutes. I thought, Pathin, we haven't got that German one here, or it would have been World War III. So anyway, so we recorded the track, and actually I said to him, I think you should have a go at I Want You, because Martin had written it, and I thought it was a more suitable track for him, really. So he turned up, and then Clint compiled the vocals with Cliff, and they did the records as they were. But Mute said, you can do this track with Mark, but you have to do an Enemy interview, you have to do a Melody Maker interview, you have to do a video, and then you have to do Top of the Pops. So basically, we did all those things, which in one way or another, all of them were. I mean, Mark was great, but he was a bit of a fucking nightmare on occasions. But he got used to being like the king of his band, and he wasn't the king of our band. He just joined our band for a little bit, although he might not have seen it that way. And on one way, when we were driving back from London one night for making the video, he told Craig, who obviously isn't around anymore, bless him, but he said, "You're not really drinking, Craig, you're pretending you're drinking." And Craig had like a can of beer, and Craig said, "There is beer in here." And Mark said, "No, there isn't." Craig said, "Yeah, there is." Mark said, "There isn't." He said, "Well, Craig, we'll have this then." And he poured the beer over Mark's head because he wasn't in the Fall, he was just joining our band. And it was a little bit. He was into mind games, So anyway, so we did the first. So we did all those things, and we got to number 18 in the charts. We went down to Top of the Pops. We did the first run through, and you couldn't see the director. They just had a floor manager which had an earpiece in. And after the first run through, our TV plugger came and said they don't want Mark on the show. So they, hold on a second here. So you've got to do an Enemy interview, a Melody Maker interview, a video. You've got to get in the charts, and then you need your Top of the Pops. We did all that. Then they move all the goalposts at that point, which I had two problems with this. One of the problems was a minor problem. The other problem was a slightly bigger problem. The minor problem was we've done everything they've asked, and now they're moving the goalposts. I'm sure we've all been in this experience with record labels before. That was the minor one. But the second, apart from the fact that we wanted to do Top of the Pops with Mark, but the second one was, okay, so we've done all those things. Who's going to tell him? So I come from a big family, so I saw that bullshit coming down the line. So I said, well, if you don't want him to do it, we won't do it. We won't do it if you don't want to do it, because we've done everything you've asked. We've got here, and now someone's saying they don't like it. It's kind of a bit of a tough shit situation. So he did it, and it's one of the most iconic. It's one of the 15 most iconic things on Top of the Pops, because he never would have got on there otherwise. And we weren't going to be the people who stopped Marky Smith ring on Top of the Pops. Do you know what I'm saying? Who would want to be that? Who'd want to be that person, So anyway, so they showed it again on Saturday morning TV, because he was reading the lyrics off a piece of paper, and then about 3 months later we got dropped by the label because we didn't do what we were told, although they won't tell you that. So it's...
Wow.
Yeah, so it doesn't matter whether you're on indie or a major, we got dropped by the label because we didn't do. Maybe they would have done it anyway, but we did get dropped. And if you don't, doesn't matter if you're on an indie, schmindy, major, whatever. If you don't do what you're told, you get told. I think eventually, although various people might remember that story differently now. That's certainly how it felt at the time. But you were put in an impossible situation. How many times when you're in a band? I'm not asking you to talk about it, but how many times when you're in a band you're asked to do X, Y, Z, you do it, and then suddenly you switcheroo because someone just doesn't want you to do it? Then it's like. Yeah, it doesn't really work that way, does it? You have to be, whether it's for good or bad, you have to be the thing that stays. You have to be the thing that sticks to its guns. You can't be vacillating and shifting. And I'm saying, you have to, if you agree, if you book me to do a bit of work, if I don't turn up, either my car's gone wrong or I'm dead. I think you have to do, I'm saying you're here because... There's so many people who were in bands, and maybe they were really great shredding guitarists, but actually they only like eating their mum's tea at 7 o'clock at night, so they're never going to be in a band, are they? Because you can have all the skill in the world, but unless you've actually got that dead single-mindedness to just pursue what you do through bloody-minded problems, you're not going to get there, are you? I don't think.
No.
You've also got to be prepared to have a. You've also got. This isn't the experience I've had in Inspirals, because they always treated us fine. But you also have to be prepared maybe to have a punch up with someone on stage and then be on stage 20 seconds later playing the first song. It's a bizarre set of skills. If you know what I'm saying.
I can see that coming with Alex and Trent pretty soon.
Oh yeah, all the time.
Going back to Mark E. Smith, have you seen the video of him where he's having a fight with the sound engineer in the studio?
Fist fight.
No, he's not having a fight, but he's going. It sounds like
the Smurfs.
Looking the Smurfs. Who's listening to it? It's hilarious.
It is fun.
Yeah, I think there's probably, I don't mean you guys, but there's probably some indie bands there where the lead singer's got an £800 haircut where they'd fucking love to sound like the Smurfs. They'd probably spend £500,000 trying to sound like the Smurfs. So I think Mark, he's sort of one of those people where he was a sort of like, I don't know, he was a kind of iconoclast, but he was very bright, I think, and I think he had problems because when he spoke to people, he tried to work out whether he should be beholden to them or whether they should be beholden to him, and there's quite a complicated dynamic, like if I ever met him, this isn't me being insulting. I'd always tell him who I was because I wouldn't assume that he knew who I was. Not because I thought he was off his head, just because he was such dealt with so many people that you might actually not know who I was, if that makes sense. So, you know, and, you know, like my dad was an academic, you know, and I've said this before, and you know, my dad was extraordinarily difficult, and, you know, he could be very difficult. And, you know, like on a couple of occasions, there were a couple of occasions, like when Inspiral Carpets supported James at the Free Trade Hall in 1989, Morrissey was there, and I didn't say hello to him. And when we did Top of the Pops with, I'm going to say it was with I Want You, which is the last time that we were on there, he was there, and I didn't talk to him on either occasion because although I love the music of Morrissey, I thought he might be a very extremely difficult person, and my father was an extremely difficult person. I just thought, I can't go up and talk to him, because if through where he's at, he's sort of unpleasant to me, it'll ruin my enjoyment of the music, and I'd rather just be the custodian of their music by not having it spoiled by a disappointing personal experience. And I'm used to being with people who are complex, intelligent, sensitive and difficult. And sometimes, I mean, yeah, so I thought, no, I just won't talk to him, because if he's rude to me, I don't have to bin all these Smiths albums, because it'll affect my enjoyment of it as a fan. You know what I'm saying? Which wasn't worth it. You know, and that's interesting because they spoke to Guy Garvey on Radio 4 about the band Talk Talk, who I love, you know, and he said he got a letter from Mark Hollis, who was he's a genius, you know, saying, should we meet up and have a pint in London? And he said he thought, no, I won't, because I've got this love of the music and I don't want it to be affected by actually meeting the person behind it. Because if you turn up and, you know, they just talk to you about pot noodles for 40 minutes, it'll somehow kind of reduce your enjoyment of this ethereal thing, which is this beautiful music that is you're invested in. You know, like when with fans, when I did this show in Hong Kong last week, I got mobbed by loads of fans. A load of used to come and see Inspirals play at Trent Poly in 1989, and they kept on saying, oh, like, you can't believe how amazing it is to meet you. And it's like, no, it's how amazing it is to meet you, because you've invested all this emotion in the music that we did. And that's fantastic. You know, that's the best thing you ever hear in your life, you know, is that people, you've become part of a really deep part of their life. And that's a wonderful thing to be involved with.
It is, yeah. I think that's something where, I mean, me and Brandon have been in this band 15 years now, which is mental. But like the more albums we do, I think we're finding that as well, Tom, where we're sort of at a stage where we're really appreciating, maybe in the past, not that we never have not appreciated it, but I think you certainly appreciate it more. The more albums you get under your belt, and you see people of it years and they stick with you. And some people drop off, and you're always making new fans anyway. It is a bit of a mad job, but I think, yeah, you've hit the nail.
Good stuff.
Yeah, it's good. It's a good job. It has its perks. It's a hard job, but it's very enjoyable a lot of the time, meeting people. And
yeah, I mean, I do a lot of stuff on my own, and I manage the band that I'm in, which is not ideal. You know, I'd like someone else to do that if I could find someone to do it. But I think a lot of it's just people. You know, it's all people. It's all people based. You know, and like there's people. I mean, like sometimes I'll do gigs in front of a load of people. Sometimes I do gigs because the person put me on just likes me. So they just put me on somewhere because they quite like me tootling up there once a year and having a bit of a laugh about things, you know. So I
assume you're all fully independent at minute, like self-managed, no labels or managers anymore, sort of thing.
No, I mean, well, I've got a guy managing me, but I won't say what his name is because he's just called Dan. There's a guy managing me, but it's with that. I do listen to what he says, and you know, I'm open for anything really. I mean, like, I'm nowhere in this conversation have I said that I'm particularly good at it. I'm just saying that I do it at the moment because I've been solo for 26 years. I mean, I did do some gigs with Inspirals over those years in 2003, 5, 7, and 8. But I've also over the last, so at the moment I have Dan managing me. But it's like you have to trust other people, and things take time. Things don't just happen; they take time. It's developmental. You have to wait for things to happen. But you know, in the last 15 years, I did a charity gig where I sang with Larry, the guitarist, Jimmy, and Dave out of James. I sang a load of James songs with them, which was one of the best weeks of my life. And then 3 years ago, I went on and sang 3 songs with the Blockheads, you know, which was in Dingwalls in London. It was like playing with a cross between the Rolling Stones and No, it's like playing between cross with the Beatles and the Sex Pistols, but better, actually, you know. And like Mickey Gallagher, their keyboard player, he took over from he joined the Animals in 1963. You know, when can't remember his name, really famous, but Alan Thingy left. You know, it's like I mean, I only did 3 songs with them, but you've played with someone who played in the Animals for 40 years. You know, and the guitarist played in Talk. Actually, the guy who was playing bass, it wasn't Norm Watroy, it was Mark King's brother who plays bass in Level 42. And whether he personally liked Level 42 or not, or it's subject to your favourite Alan Partridge scene, he's a fantastic bass player. And so it's just nice sometimes to share the stage with people like that who are just amazing, you know, just some balding bloke from Oxford singing with all these people who are just geniuses, you know, just amazing band. And that's Chas Jankel. Chas Jankel was playing guitar, and Chas Jankel, I mean, that's a genius, you know, Jimi Hendrix style genius, you know. So it's really nice when, as you go through life, if you get the opportunities to play with other people or get other people to play with you, and that's not some, it's not some secret request to come and play with you. It is really, no, it isn't. No, but take them, because then you share, you've put yourself in the same field as having played with people who've played. You know what I'm saying? So you've got to do a little bit of that, I think, you know, like we're doing a bit of a project now, I can't tell you about now, but I'm doing a separate project. I've got 2 things. I'm working on a new solo album, which is a sort of folky album, you know, and I'm working on another project I can't tell you about. The other project, we're just inviting anyone and everyone to be involved in it. So it's a kind of a massive unfolding jam, really, and we're trying to do a record that's like those records that one did when we were 13, and we did them on cassette machines. I don't know what technology you probably done on something slightly better, but we're trying to do a record where we just get anyone to be on the record and do a record like you did when you were 13 years old, you know. And that's another project, but it's got a name, but I'm not going to tell you what it is, because don't necessarily want to be associated with it when it comes out, not because it's crap, but just because I want people to take it for what it is, which is just an imaginative project, you know. I saw a band in Sheffield that were really good, so if I went up there and went and played glockenspiel on it, it would become part of this project. So I'm trying to get away from that idea of a band being always having to have the same people in it, or we had 2 drummers playing on some recording that we did, and you know, so it's just it sounds a little bit wanky when I'm saying it in the round, but it's just trying to get out of always having to do something in a band and always having to be the same people, because it doesn't really, you know, it can, if something sounds good, it sounds good, you know.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, it's not something we've really done at this point. We've not really, who knows, maybe on next record. You might have to join us, Tom. You might have to sing on one of our tunes.
Yeah, I'll do it anytime you want, mate. I mean, I think sometimes it's good to have an idea on a song, you know. Yeah, I'd love to. Of course.
I think that's what Shed Seven's just done, actually. Had a couple of guests. I think had Pete Doherty.
Yeah. But I think maybe like I always like the idea of doing something slightly different on a song. I'm trying to give an example of what I mean, but I've got this idea. What do you normally write songs about, or is there not one thing that you normally write songs about? That's a bit of a leading question, isn't it? What do you guys write songs about? Anything, everything?
Everything, yeah. All the usuals, going out, drinking, relationships, just the same thing that's been going off since the start.
It might be good for you guys to record a song, but just as an experiment, just as yourselves, but don't say it's you, and then you can just approach it completely differently. You don't even have to release it, but just as a thought idea, you know. So, I'll give an example. When you ring up a business and it has like an AI answering machine that has a computer voice on it, it's a bit deep, this, but they set the level of intelligibility of your voice below the level it has to be on, because you're paying for the phone call and they're using that to build up a bigger data set or a bigger database of all people's voices. So you're paying for the AI model to get better. So that's machine learning. So I'm going to do a song called Machine Learning. So it might sound a bit like Kraftwerk, you know, but that's just the idea of the song, you know, and what comes from there. That's just the initial idea. So you might say, you know, machine learning, so you might say it used to be CD burning, you know, so you've already got a way into the song. So, you know, so sometimes it's worth breaking your project down or your band down and just having a go at doing some stuff where you don't say, well, this is a Sherlocks song, this is just a song we're going to do together. And, you know, like Brian Eno did it with Coldplay, he told the band that Chris Martin couldn't write any of the songs. He said all the rest of the band had to write the songs, just to switch it around, just to try and do something different. So it's always worth trying a few different hats on with music. And we were quite lucky with Inspirals because Clint's a great songwriter, Graham was a great songwriter, Martin was a great songwriter, I was a great singer, and I wrote songs. So there was always that putting different building blocks. Yeah, you could have a little set of Lego here and another set of Meccano there. You know what I'm saying? Pin the tail on the donkey or whatever. You know. So it's so the idea of this new project is to we recorded this jam, and then there used to be these things in the 60s and 70s called number stations, which were broadcasts that were done on shortwave radio. Now, they were either done to jam Eastern European radio stations, or in the East, they were done to jam Western radio stations for propaganda reasons, or they might have been there to test shortwave radios. This is a bit dark, in case there was a nuclear war, so they knew they could communicate with troops on the ground. You know, so I just recorded a load of these, and we just played it over the top. So it's quite dumb in one way. It's quite a stupid idea. It's quite dumb in one way, but another way, when the actual listener hears it, it takes on some kind of mysticism and some dark thing, because no one really knows what it's about. So what I try and do with music is not always make it complicated, because the listener creates it, if you know what I'm saying. I got a bit deep there. Now you know why people think I'm Doctor Who or something. But yeah, so it's good to have a couple of songs on an album that are just idea songs, you know.
What are your views on AI, Tom?
I think it'll be the fucking death of all of us personally. I think that no one sat down. We didn't. There's a really good documentary on iPlayer called "I Can't Get You Out of My Head," which is it's done by a guy called Adam Curtis. He's done a load of different documentaries, and he talks about how the internet was invented by hippies in California to make people more free, and then they all became capitalists, and now. There are these enormous supercomputers. This one insurance company sets up this supercomputer that's as big as the Arndale Centre in Manchester, and it worked out the risk of whether if someone got a car or if there was a war, what it would cost. So, but that was the first of these supercomputers. But we never see these supercomputers, do we, as consumers? So when you use your phone and you book parking somewhere, or you'd go on a dating app or whatever, you don't see any moving parts. So the Wi-Fi is like our new God, where we used to see God as being around the place. So this thing doesn't seem to have any moving parts, but actually it's making decisions with algorithms that we don't buy into. And I think with AI, it's very, very dangerous, because what happens if they say, right, okay, everyone over 85 in Britain owns £200 billion worth of stuff, but it costs £20 billion to keep them alive every year. But if you murdered all of them, they'd make £1 billion worth of plant food. Guess what AI is going to do? And the government is already saying it's going to hand over, not just this government, all governments all around the world are handing over decision-making processes about society to AI. I think
That's crazy.
We never sat down and discussed it. The other thing is, look at it in terms of music, right? All of our tracks are being skimmed across the internet by these big corporate companies to make fake music. We never agreed to that. When did we sit down and agree to that? So it's a bit like, look, there's some elements of AI that are good. If you use a sat nav that's AI, I'm not saying every single bit of AI is wrong, but we didn't. If you get a bit deep here, if you go back to the Industrial Revolution, I'm not being entirely serious. I'm being a little bit Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, you know. If we sat down and thought about what it had actually done, we might not have done all of it, really. It's like every time in history, in human history, every 500 years, every 200 years, we take a handbrake turn and we go off in the right direction. I think AI could be the death of every single one of us, you know. And the thing is, if you look at it creating music, what happens if when there's no one alive who's alive when the Beatles were alive, what's to stop someone from scraping all the Beatles tracks and then creating a band called the Beatles, where the P looks like a B? The people who were born afterwards, they don't have any clue of what's authentic, so it's a signage problem as well as a content problem. Do you see what I'm being? You can see going off the bloody onto the Doctor Who thing, but I think really we should have been asked before they start handing over loads of AI functions to things that we have. They should have had a town hall meeting where it was discussed, and we say, we never agreed to having our music scraped, did we, off the internet? We never agreed to. And you look at the Google search engine that we all used for 20 years, you know, to find out where you could buy Clark's shoes or to get pornography or whatever it was. And actually that was just the front end of them building AI, because they were just taking all those search criteria and putting it into some supercomputer to work out how people search things, and that's machine learning, you know. So I don't think it's a good thing, really, to be honest. Also, the fact that on the BBC they constantly say it's a good thing. If they constantly say something's good on the BBC or ITV, or you know that it isn't really, don't you? It's cynical. If they said the Sherlocks were good, I wouldn't have a problem with that. But, if they have an AI version of the Sherlocks and they're called the Perlocks and they look a bit like you, but, it's not you. So you're asking me big questions and I'm giving you pompous answers. But no, I don't think it's good. I think there should be some discussion amongst people who are going to be affected by it, whether they think it's a good thing or not. I think that's what I think. But that's because I'm old, so I've got less of the road in front of me than I have behind me. So a lot of the way you view life, history or philosophy is governed by how old you are. I think, a lot of people think when they're old, there's a big thing about young and old people. Old people spend the whole time slagging off young people. They mostly slag off young people because they're jealous of the fact that they're not young anymore. There's nothing more to it than that. It's just that's how it goes. But I'm going to have to go in a bit because I've got to go to the doctors, I'm afraid, because I'm an old person myself.
No,
I was just going to say that, Tom. We're quite conscious of time. I don't want to keep you too long.
Yeah, only thing I was going to say is, aside from music, because it's been quite heavily music, well, all of it, have you got any hobbies outside of music? You strike me as someone who's banging to history for some reason.
I studied history at the Poly, Manchester Poly, but I'm just, my dad was sort of interested in world affairs. I suppose that's where we got that from. But I meditate. I go to this meditation class. And meditation's really good because it's a way of affecting your brain chemistry, which doesn't involve drugs. So if you wake up and really hungover, you can meditate to make yourself feel less hungover, or if you think you can just lead to being more relaxed, but it's not chemical. I do that. I go to the gym every day. Because you have to do that as you get older, really. And there's a right bunch. It's not a posh gym. It's like a council gym. It's like it's dead dirty. There's a load of mold stains on the ceiling. In fact, I put some on the inside booklet of my last album. This really beautifully produced album with these pictures of these water stains. Just spent so much time in there. But I think going to the gym. I like cycling. Meditation, reading as well. I'd like to write as well. I'd like to write science fiction, but I think I've got my wife Kelly is a bit younger than me. I've got 2 kids who are 8 and 12, and I've got some grown-up girls. I've got 3 girls who are in their 30s. I would like to write science fiction, but I think you'd have to do it 10 hours a day, and I think I could only do it successfully if I divorced my wife and didn't see my kids. And I don't think that's going to be I don't think that would be a good trade, to be honest.
I'd love to see that, to be fair.
Yeah, I mean, we had an idea. I mean, there's a funny story. I don't know whether it's about congruence, but I had this idea for a story where there was an alternative reality where Pink Floyd had never existed. And just writing a sort of novel about Pink Floyd never existed. And you don't tell people that. You just say the biggest record about the Berlin Wall was by this punk band in 1983, so people have to spot it. And the idea with the novel was that if you get a ship and you put it due north, a big ship, you put it due north, it will go there. If you move it just slightly, like one tiny little bit, it won't be that different in a place 5 minutes later, but 5 hours later it'll be in a completely different place. That's the idea. So anyway, I told this to like an American Doctor Who guy who writes Doctor Who novels. I didn't think any more about it. And then about 12 years later, someone said, "Oh, do you want to go and see this program called Yesterday? It's about this world where the Beatles never existed." I said, "I don't really need to go and see that because I think probably it was my idea. Someone's cannibalised for a film, which I don't mind. I mean, it had a good twist at the end because I met John Lennon and he was a plumber and he was really happy. But just the trouble if you discuss ideas and plots, then they'll probably be used somewhere, I mean, I'd like to write Doctor Who, but I don't think they're getting the writing of it right anyway. I think they need to recast it. I don't know if there's a great program called Motherland, and there's an actor and he played a character called Kevin, and I think he should be Doctor Who. He was in The Horror as well, which was this drama that was on BBC about these people got stuck in ice in a boat and got eaten by a monster. I think he should be Doctor Who, and I think they should make Doctor Who a reform supporting kind of character, and I think all the people around him ought to kind of ameliorate the terrible bollocks that he creates. So I think it needs a bit of sometimes you need to flip, when you've got a long-standing drama, you need to flip it and send it the other way, because you have to offend people you sometimes have to offend the people who are your first followers, in things, I think, So, but I'm not going to get divorced or not see my kids to write some book, because I don't think it's a worthy trade.
No.
Well, thanks for having us. I better go and get me body sorted out. Go back to being an Adonis rather than Adonis kebab, which is what I'm turning.
It's been a pleasure anyway.
Yeah.
Thank you for taking the time.
And if you ever
good to catch up.
want us to sing on anything, I'd love to.
We'll drop you a message.
Yeah,
A fun fact, actually, not to drag it on anymore, but me and Brandon supported you years and years and years ago in it's not even a venue, it's like a club called Viper Rooms in Sheffield.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Of course, it wasn't.
Yeah,
that
I think
long
me and Trent have done sound for you.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Oh, well,
Before the Sherlocks.
Oh, I mean, the thing about me, I'm quite easy to do sound for because I've got a big loud mouth and I play the guitar like a piece of agricultural machinery, so I'm not the most difficult. But no, I mean, like, I'm always nice to sound people because there's this famous story, isn't there, about the band who was supporting Def Leppard and they came on stage and they didn't like the way they were doing their first song and they didn't like the way the lighting guy was doing their lights. They said, these lights are a bit shit, aren't they? So the lighting guy just turned all their lights off and that was the end of their gig. So always be nice to the person, but it should be nice to sound people. I think with sound people, I've got a big, strong voice. And when we work with people, I always say to people, let's not spend the whole of the gig trying to achieve a standard. Let's get the standard immediately, and then you can have some fun because the people doing the sound are. I mean, the person playing bass isn't having fun. There's a story about a big band, and I'm not going to tell you who they were, but they were playing a festival. They were playing the Fuji Rock Festival in Japan, and the bass player was dancing around, and the person who was the most famous person in the band, and they're a really famous band, told him to stop doing it because he felt that he was getting the attention of the audience more than he was. He said, if you go on doing it, we'll sack you. And this band were quite a big band. I don't care what band you are. I don't care if you're playing in a little village hall or whether you're playing up in heaven. That's shit. That's if you don't think people in your band having a good time and enjoying it is a good thing, you're a lousy musician, a bad leader, I think. Because like someone in our band, he made a mistake on one of the songs after, and he was absolutely a bit younger, a lot younger than me. And he was completely upset about it after. So I put my arm around him and said, "Doesn't matter at all. None of it matters. Just as long as you had a good time, doesn't matter." Yeah. If it was in C and you played it in B, I do care, but it'll be right next time. I don't want him going away and worrying.
Yeah, it's live music.
It's live.
Don't want him going away and worrying about it for the next week. That's I've got to go though. Really love to speak to you. And definitely get in contact. I'd love to come and do something with you. Yeah, absolutely. If it comes out, it comes out. If it doesn't, it doesn't matter. The thing is just the crack. That's the thing. That's what it's about. We got to make fun while we're here.
Cheers. Thank you.
Yes, thanks a lot, Tom.
For everybody, that's been episode 50 of the Sherlocks podcast. Thank you for tuning in and thank you for sticking with us. 50 episodes, which is amazing. We're going to continue to bring you more episodes. Keep tuning in, keep commenting and whatnot. We're going to stick a link in the description for Albert Hall tickets. That's on Friday. So, love to see you there. There's only one thing left, Broadwell.
We'll see you on Friday, won't we?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Like, share, subscribe, join the WhatsApp group, click the thumbnail.
Click the thumbnail. What to get into the video?
Click the bell.
Well, the next thumbnail. That for next week, so yeah, we'll see you there.
Bye.
Bye.